Shabbat Shalom. It's good to be back. Some of you know we were away on vacation the last couple weeks, and it was warm, and we were on the beach, and it was beautiful, and it's good to be back. I'm happy to report that my New Year's resolutions are still going strong. They are in full swing. I have not dropped off with that yet. I would say that historically I'm not a big New Year's resolutions guy. I love setting them. Not great at keeping them. Every year, without fail, I get asked, Rabbi, do Jews make New Year's resolutions? Or, Rabbi, are New Year's resolutions Jewish? And every year I give what I think is the most Jewish answer I could possibly give, which is yes and no. The no, the evidence or the argument that New Year's resolutions are not Jewish actually comes to us in our Parsha today. As we heard from Madeline earlier, in one of the central events in this Torah portion, perhaps in the Torah, just before Yaakov dies, he makes a point to bless each of his sons, as well as his grandsons Ephraim and Manasseh. One might think, when you think about a parent or grandparent blessing his children or grandchildren, we might think these blessings may contain hopes for each of them, his dreams, his prayers, that they'll be successful and loved and go on to do great things. And for Ephraim and Manasseh, that's exactly what they get from their Zaydi, from Yaakov. But that's not really the treatment Yaakov's sons receive. Instead of what we might think of as blessing, for many of his sons, it seems like Yaakov just sort of summarizes things they've done, and not necessarily their best moments either. Reuven, you slept with Bilhah, and that was inappropriate. Reuven's blessing begins. Shimon, Levi, your extreme violence made me uncomfortable. These are just two examples, and of course, some of the sons receive blessings that are lovely. But the ikar, the essence of the learning from Yaakov is that according to Yaakov, a blessing for what will happen from now on, a blessing for sort of the rest of your life, must start in the past, with where you've been, with what you've already done. It's interesting that Parshat Vayechi is almost always the last parsha we read in December or the first one that we read in January, because this scene in the Torah speaks so directly to a real-life modern concept, which is making New Year's resolutions. New Year's resolutions begin, this year I will, like, this year I'll be more patient. Judaism pushes us to say, instead, last year I was not patient, and here is who paid the price. That's the difference, and that's why New Year's resolutions maybe aren't Jewish. New Year's resolutions try to build a future or look towards the future irrespective of the past. Judaism, Jewish tradition, as we see in our Parsha today, insists on a future that recognizes and is responding to the past, like Yaakov does with his sons. So there's this not very Jewish way to make New Year's resolutions, but fear not, there is also a very Jewish way, a deeply Jewish way to do it. Because really, when we think about it, what is a New Year's resolution? The idea of looking at yourself and identifying some part of your life that needs work or improvement or whatever. The Jews invented this. We call it cheshbon hanefesh. It's the spiritual work we traditionally do every year leading up to Rosh Hashanah. The work is basically setting New Year's resolutions, but with a Hebrew name. In particular, cheshbon hanefesh pushes us to look at the parts of ourselves that we may otherwise be avoiding. It's not simply goal setting, but interrogating who we are as people, looking at our errors, our missteps, and patterns we want to change. One of the first and most important things my voice teacher in cantorial school taught me was for something to change, something needs to change. Frank was responding to a particular habit I had of singing something in our lessons incorrectly. And he would tell me, no, that's not right, and he'd tell me what to fix, and I would sing it the exact same way. And he'd say, was that right? And I would say no. And he would say, well, if you want something to change, something needs to change. Simple and elegant and very Jewish. We're taught, we are instructed to look at what in each of us needs to change and to change it. The Pisechna Rebbe, Colonimus Kalman Shapiro in the early 1900s, taught that one who desires to add to the substance of Torah, Mishrotze bechakirto levad b'Torah lehosif, will not accomplish anything. Lo yo'il me'uma, will not accomplish anything unless that person first adds holiness within themselves. Rak im b'kirbo ve'atzmo mosif kedusha. The Pisechna Rebbe isn't telling us to ignore the world and its many problems, but he's saying don't use all of those as a distraction from changing or working on ourselves. In other words, anyone who thinks, I want to fix the system, I want to repair the world, I want to contribute to my community, needs to know that that only happens by looking inwards first. Not looking at ourselves with judgment, but with curiosity, with questions. What am I bringing with me into my relationships? What am I bringing with me as I walk into shul or into conversations with friends or neighbors? Am I holding on to fear, anger, or trauma from the past? Whatever Torah we might try to teach, says the Pisechna Rebbe, whatever contributions we may try to make, everything gets filtered through us, through our lens. And so if nothing in me changes, then nothing out there does either. Frankly, the Pisechna Rebbe is sort of the poster child for Jewish New Year's resolutions. It seems like he's saying we should be making them every day, all year. The key difference seems to be this. A Jewish New Year's resolution isn't about setting a goal, it's about identifying a truth and committing to repair. I know that sounds like a lot of work, and some of us may be thinking, I'll just go to the gym more. But Parshat Vayechi teaches us that blessing only comes after real honesty. Yaakov doesn't bless his sons despite what they did in the past. He speaks to them because of what they did and where they had been. And for us too, in doing this hard work, there is real reward, real blessing to be found in how we feel about ourselves and how we show up in our relationships. So what does a Jewish New Year's resolution look like? It starts with a sentence in the past tense. I was snarky. I didn't show up for people who needed me. I avoided something I need to face. And then it's a commitment to change. Not huge, radical change, but change bikir bi, change within me, within myself. There's another piece that we need to address in talking about New Year's resolutions, which is guilt and shame. Because in having these conversations, it's easy to get stuck on those things that we are not doing. The risk of all of this honesty is that instead of feeling motivated, we might just feel bad about ourselves. Rabbi Nachman of Breslov taught, if you believe it is possible to destroy, you must believe it is possible to repair. Im atama amin sheyecholin lekalkel, ta'amin sheyecholin letaken. Whatever we identify during this season, or really any time throughout the year, that we want to change in ourselves, anything we look at and think, eesh, Rabbi Nachman wants us to know that we're not broken. We've just found the place where change is possible. I've been making New Year's jokes all week. Some of you heard throughout the week at Minyan. I said Shana Tova to everyone on Thursday and made a joke about it being Rosh Hashanah. It's classic rabbi humor. I have to, get it where I can. But it also comes from this place of I love New Year's. I love that it's a holiday and I don't have to write a sermon and it's I can use my phone. But what I really love is the invitation into this work. We can call it making resolutions, we can call it teshuvah or cheshbon hanefesh, but this is yet another time on our calendar when we are called to pause, to look honestly at ourselves, and to do the work of asking, what do we want to be different here? I hope we will take this moment seriously. I hope we will answer that call with humility for who we've been and for enthusiasm for the work ahead. Shabbat Shalom. Bruchim Tihiu.